The Lynette Brown Show. This be the Lynette Brown Show.
She's always ready and on time.
The Lynette Brown Show.
When you got something that's on your mind.
The Lynette Brown Show.
Whatever you got going on, she knows the deal.
The Lynette Brown Show.
Where we always keep it real.
Good morning and welcome to the LVS, the hottest, the biggest, the bad talk show of the South. Whew, I am the fiery diva Cuban airwaves hot on your favorite station. Thank you guys for tuning in with me once again. Got a nice show lined up for you, ladies and gentlemen. You know, you could have went somewhere else, but you decided to come back with me, and I do appreciate it. Yep, this is the end of our Black History program for the month of February. Thank you for all of the loyal viewership that I have received, and thank you for all of the positive responses that I've received as well. But we're going to go into a quick commercial break. We'll be back right after these messages. Don't go
Welcome to Eddie Pruitt Ford right here at Hartselle, Alabama, where everybody in the Tennessee Valley knows that we're your low-price leader with great service. But don't you worry a little bit when that warranty runs out and those high repair bills start to roll in. How much that's going to cost you? Well, at Eddie Pruitt Ford, we've got that covered. You're going to have the peace of mind of knowing that every vehicle on the lot, new or used, are going to come with a free lifetime powertrain warranty. That's engine, transmission, drive axle, free and exclusive only at Eddie Pruitt Ford right here in Hartselle.
Welcome back to the LBS, the hottest, the biggest, the baddest talk show of the South. I am the fiery diva, keeping the airwaves hot on your favorite station. Ladies and gentlemen, want to go ahead and get right into our Black History program. This is actually the last day that we're going to be doing Black History in February, okay? But we need to do more Black History. Don't you agree? I think so, because there's so many things that I have learned just in this month myself, and I wanted to share it with you all. And we've got some footage we're going to be showing here in just a little bit. But we wanted to talk to you a little bit about Harriet Tubman. Yes, I know I said last week. I think that I may be related to Harriet Tubman or something. I don't know. Maybe a daughter or a granddaughter or something. But that's not possible, though, is it, ladies and gentlemen? I know, because Harriet didn't have any children. But if she did, I believe I would have been a descendant of Harriet Tubman. But we're going to talk a little bit about Harriet. You know, Harriet, of course, she was the conductor for the Underground Railroad. And ladies and gentlemen, a lot of people, you know, they don't understand what the Underground Railroad was. And the Underground Railroad was actually a safe haven for a lot of slaves. And some of the slaves, now, she had to pull a gun on a lot of them, just because they were wanting to go back, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, if you go back in history and read it, I hate they've taken history out of the schools. They really shouldn't have taken history out of schools, Black history out of schools, because our children need to know this. And they need to know that a lot of white people did help Harriet with the Underground Railroad. You know, they had special blankets and special colors put up to let you know that that was a safe place to go for the slaves. I mean, and then you even had teachers. You had teachers that were sneaking out and trying to teach the slaves how to read. And let's be mindful, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of white people, they dealt with a lot of retaliation. And I mean, it was against the law. So they were in trouble if they even found out that, if people even found out that they were even helping the slaves, okay? So let's just keep that in mind. And, you know, that can really apply to today. Because I'm going to tell you something, ladies and gentlemen, this is 2014, but I was covering a story right here in North Alabama. And, you know, I was just having a little Q&A with one of these attorneys, and he was a civil rights attorney. That's what he told me years ago. And, of course, he didn't want to come on camera, and he didn't want his name called or anything like that. And I asked him a very simple question. And I said, sir, why is it so difficult for lawyers to take civil rights cases? Why is this? And he told me, he said, well, ma'am, he said, the reason is fear. I said, fear? I said, why would they be fearful of taking a civil rights case, something that's going to help someone? And he said, well, ma'am, he said, it's not that easy. He said that the lawyers fear retaliation from the judges and the cops. And that was, my goodness, that blew my mind, ladies and gentlemen. And I know, I mean, Diva has to keep it real with you, okay? But that's what was told to me. So that gives me a better understanding as of what's going on in the judicial system. Not all of it, but for a lot of it, because, you know, and I'm sure with the jurors as well, no one wants to be retaliated against. And I'm sure that there are a lot of them know that some of the decisions that they're making are not right, they're not fair, but they fear for their jobs and other ways of retaliation. So that was something I said, well, you know what, I have got to share that with my viewers. But back to Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad, ladies and gentlemen. I just wanted to put that out there for you because she did so much, but she was not alone. It was some people that helped Harriet along the way. And some of them were white people that were allowing the slaves to come in, I mean by the numbers, to come in and spend the night, eat, dry off. I mean, you know, the slaves, in fact, I remember I did a Black History program at my church. It's been years and years ago, but I remember I did a little piece on Harriet Tubman. And, I mean, don't get it twisted, ladies and gentlemen. Black people, we knew about sushi long before it was in these upscale restaurants, okay? We were eating whatever we could get our hands on. I mean, keep in mind, we were living outside. We were living outdoors, trying to survive, just trying to get up north. So I just wanted to put that out there for you. And I've got a little piece that I'm going to show with Harriet Tubman. It's very brief, ladies and gentlemen, so you really need to pay attention to it. And coming up on the second half of the show, we're going to talk about a young man that some of you may have heard of, and then again, maybe not. But if not, you're going to hear his name right here on the LBS. We're going to take this quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to show this little clip of Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth. We'll be back right after this. Don't go.
Memorial services were held for Miss Anne Marie Duran Saturday, February 22nd at St. Joseph Catholic Church. Miss Duran's cherished memories will remain forever in the hearts of her loved ones. She is survived by her husband, Jesse Duran of Huntsville, Alabama.
Children, where there is so much racket, there must be something out of kilter. I think that twixt the Negroes of the South and the women at the North, all talking about rights, the white men will be in a fix pretty soon. But what's all this here talking about? That man over there says that women need to be helped into carriages and lifted over ditches and have the best place everywhere. Nobody ever helps me into carriages or over mud puddles or gives me any best place. And ain't I a woman? Look at me. Look at my arm. I have plowed and planted and gathered into barns, and no man could head me. And ain't I a woman? I could work as much and eat as much as a man when I could get it, and bear the lash as well. And ain't I a woman? I have borne 13 children and seen most all sold off to slavery. And when I cried out with my mother's grief, none but Jesus heard me. And ain't I a woman? Then they talk about this thing in the head. What's this they call it? Intellect. That's right, honey. Intellect. What's that got to do with women's rights or Negroes' rights? If my cup won't hold but a pint and yours holds a quart, wouldn't you be mean not to let me have my little half measure full? Then that little man in black there, he says women can't have as much rights as men because Christ wasn't a woman. Where did your Christ come from? Where did your Christ come from? man had nothing to do with them. If the first woman God ever made was strong enough to turn the world upside down all alone, these women together ought to be able to turn it back and get it right side up again. And now that they is asking to do it, the men better let them.
If you want to go, then get in here. I'm going to make it plain for you. When I say get, you go. I'll shoot you dead. You don't do like I say. So make up your mind. Or live north or die here.
Lynette Brown Show. This be the Lynette Brown Show.
She's always ready and on time.
The Lynette Brown Show.
When you got something that's on your
The
mind,
Lynette Brown Show.
whatever you got going on, she knows the
The
deal.
Lynette Brown Show.
Where we always keep it real.
Back to the LBS, the hottest, the biggest, the baddest talk show of the South. I am the Fire Diva, keeping the airwaves hot on your favorite station. Thank you guys for tuning in with me once again. I know you've got all kinds of options out there. I know it's hundreds and hundreds of channels that you could have gone to, but you decided to come back with the Diva, and I do appreciate you, ladies and gentlemen. But I'm going to call a name that many of you may have already heard. Then again, this may be your first time hearing this young man's name. And actually, baby girl, she reminded me of this guy. And, in fact, when, I was over the youth department at my church, ladies and gentlemen, I remember that this was baby girl. She wanted to do this every single year. She wanted to tell this guy's story. And the way that I used to do my children, I didn't allow them, I really wasn't on the speeches. I really wasn't with the speeches, getting up and just reading a speech. I wasn't with that. I made them research. They had to research, cut out clippings, hold up poster boards, and talk about this person. That's the way I trained my kids when I was a little youth leader at this church, okay? But she wanted to do this guy every single year. And she asked me, she says, Mama, are you going to be talking about him on your show? And I said, you know what, baby girl, I think I will. I think I will, because so many people, may or may not have heard of, Emmett Till. Yep, Emmett Till was a 14-year-old young man that was, brutally murdered in Money, Mississippi. And I don't want to tell too much. I want you to listen to this story, but it's, it brings tears to my eyes when, when I was putting that together. We was working on it in post. It was just, it was awful. The images, and I do want to warn you, please, ladies and gentlemen, if you have children and you do not want them to see anything graphic, the images on this show is going to be graphic today, okay? And I just want to just give you that warning, so please just turn the channel. You don't have to look at it. It's very, very difficult to watch, but this is history, and we cannot take it out. This is Black History Month. Yes, we want to talk about Martin, and we want to talk about Booker T. Washington, and we want to talk about George Washington Carver. We want to talk about Rosa Parks. We want to talk about, yes, but it's so many other things, to Black history that a lot of people don't know. There are some ugly in Black history as well. So we must, we can't just highlight the good and just ignore the bad. I think that we need to bring all of it together, and I think that we'd have a better generation. In fact, I think if we showed our children, our young men, this particular clips, I believe, I think if we can get like one or two of them to pull their pants up, we might be getting somewhere. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and roll into this clip, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go anywhere. For those who have just tuned in, you're tuning in to the Lynette Brown Show, the hottest, the biggest, the baddest talk show of the South.
grocery and not much else. The Bryants lived with their 2 boys in cramped rooms behind the store. Roy's half-brother, J.W. Milam, helped out around the grocery. The 235-pound Milam was a hard-drinking man with a reputation for being tough on anyone who got in his way. Emmett went in and bought 2 cents worth of bubble gum. According to witnesses, on his way out of the store, Emmett turned to Carolyn Bryant and whistled.
In the morning, about 2:30, I heard a voice at the door, and they said, "This is Mr. Bryant," and said they wanted the boy that did the talk at money. There was a man standing with a pistol in one hand and a flashlight in the other. So we marched all around through 2 rooms, and I found the boy in the 3rd room in the bed with my baby boy. And they told him to get up and put his clothes on.
Mose Wright pleaded with the 2 men. He's only 14 and he's from up north. Why not give the boy a whipping, Wright begged, and leave it at that? J.W. Milam turned to Mose Wright. "How old are you, preacher?" he asked. 64, Wright replied. "You make any trouble, you'll never live to be 65.
I could hear all this beating, and I could hear this beating, and I could hear this crying and crying and beating. And I'm saying to myself, they beating somebody up there. I heard that even before I got to the barn. I passed, they still was beating, I can hear that. Milam came out, so he had said, "Did you hear anything?" I saw him, he had a khaki pants on, had a green nylon shirt, and a 45 on his side. So I said, "No," I said, "I ain't heard anything." I said, "Anything."
In Chicago, a desperate Mamie Till notified the local newspapers of Emmett's disappearance. On August 31st, 3 days after Emmett Till had disappeared, a boy fishing in the Tallahatchie noticed a body caught on a gnarled root in the muddy water. He informed Tallahatchie County Sheriff Clarence Strider.
My dad called me and asked me, did I have a boat in the river, and I told him I did. And then he said, "Well, we'll be down there in a little while," and he sent deputies down here to go with me, and we took the boat and went up the river. It was in a curve and a drift, and a foot was sticking up. And we tore into the drift and got to him, and got him out. Then we carried him up to the other landing and put him in the hearse.
Emmett's body had been weighed down with a 75-pound cotton gin fan tied around his neck with barbed wire. The boy was so badly beaten that Mose Wright could identify Emmett only by his father's ring. Mamie Till was in Chicago, surrounded by worried family and friends, when she was told that her only child was dead.
Those words were like arrows sticking all over my body. My eyes were so full of tears until I couldn't see. And when I began to make the announcement, that Emmett had been found, and how he was found, the whole house began to scream and to cry. And that's when I realized that this was a load that I was going to have to carry. I wouldn't get any help carrying this load.
By the time Mamie received her son's body back in Chicago, 2 weeks after she had kissed him goodbye, Emmett's murder was front-page news. His body was taken to a funeral home owned by A.A. Rayner, who had promised Mississippi authorities that he would keep the casket nailed shut. When Mamie Till asked him to open it up, Rayner refused.
I asked him, Mr. Rayner, do you have a hammer? I said, I haven't signed anything, and I haven't made any promises. And if you can't open that box, I can.
We opened the casket. There was a terrible odor that came from the body because the body had been in the water and began to deteriorate. Mr. Rayner he told the mother, he said, if I was you, I wouldn't look at this body, but this body is in such a horrible condition. She said, Mr. Rayner, I want to see my son.
And I decided then that I would start at his feet and work my way up, maybe gathering strength as I went. I paused at his midsection because I knew he would not want me looking at him. But I saw enough that I knew he was intact. I kept on up until I got to his chin, and then I was forced to deal with his face. I saw that his tongue was choked out. I noticed that the right eye was lying on midway his cheek. I noticed that his nose had been broken, like somebody took a meat chopper and chopped his nose in several places. As I kept looking, I saw a hole, which I presumed was a bullet hole, and I could look through that hole and see daylight on the other side. And I wondered, was it necessary to shoot it? Mr. Rayner asked me, he said, do you want me to touch the body up? I said, no, Mr. Rayner, let the people see what I've seen. I was just willing to bear it all. I think everybody needed to know what had happened to Emmett Till.
Mamie's decision would make her son's death a touchstone for a generation. At a church on the south side of Chicago, Emmett Till's mutilated body would be on display for all to see.
It was on a Sunday afternoon. I won't ever forget, it was a Sunday afternoon. The church was very calm. The line was very orderly.
I thought that pretty soon the crowd would die down. It looked like all of Chicago was there.
Well, they brought their children with them because Emmett was 14 years old, and they wanted the younger kids to see what happened to Emmett. They were mad. They were angry.
And as we were led into the church, my girlfriends and myself, we walked up to the casket, and it was covered with glass. And we all looked down. This was our friend laying, looking like a monster.
They said that about 1 in every 5 had to be assisted out of the building. They would just go into a faint.
I think black people's reaction was so visceral. Everybody knew we were under attack. And that attack was symbolized by the attack on a 14-year-old boy.
Welcome back to the LBS, the hottest, the biggest, the baddest talk show of the South. I am the Fiery Diva. Keep the airwaves hot on your favorite station. Out of time, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in to the LBS. Yeah, I know, that was pretty bad, wasn't it, ladies and gentlemen? That was just horrific. I mean, the images, did you see? That boy was so pretty. I mean, really, he was just a pretty baby, just a pretty boy. And to mutilate this baby like this is just, it's just beyond my thinking. It's inhumane, ladies and gentlemen. Let's just keep that real, okay? But I'm going to go into another break, and then I'm coming back to close this out. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back after these messages.
Good Tax Services. Give them a call at 256-353-0379. Again, that number is 256-353-0379, or stop by 1201 Danville Road, Decatur, Alabama. Let a good man do your taxes.
The Lynette Brown Show is brought to you in parts by Alabama A&M University. Call for registration 256-372-5245. Again, that number is 256-372-5245, home of the Bulldog.
Welcome back to the LBS, the hottest, the biggest, the baddest talk show of the South. I am the Fiery Diva, keeping the airwaves hot on your favorite station. Want to remind you of my soup kitchen, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, it's coming up March the 8th, and we will be at the Richard Shower Center. So if you know anyone that need a plate, would like a hot meal that day, please have them to come and see us at the kids' table. Okay, we're going to be at the Richard Shower Center from 1 until 4. That is Saturday, March the 8th. So please mark your calendars, okay? Yep, if you know anybody elderly, disabled, children, yep, we're trying to feed as many people as we possibly can. Okay, so anyway, it's time for Diva I Want It. Yes, Diva I Want It. Don't have a lot of time though. Diva want more time, but she doesn't have it. Got some trivia questions here, ladies and gentlemen. If somebody would like to go to Red Lobster, then text me right now and tell me what the birth name was for Harriet Tubman. Yep, I told you better have your Black History caps on. Didn't I tell you that last week? You better pay attention. Okay, what was the birth name of Harriet Tubman? Got tongue-tied there because I got another question coming up right behind it. Okay, now, who was Harriet's second husband? Okay, who was Harriet's second husband? Okay, if you can answer that question, then I might let you go to, let's see, maybe Olive Garden somewhere, maybe. Yep, that's why we need Black History. Okay, that's why we have to have it in school. You know, and some people say, well, that's too hard, that's too hard. No, it's not. You're supposed to know it anyway, right? Okay, who was Harriet Tubman's second husband? Okay, and I'll give you a little hint, ladies and gentlemen. Harriet Tubman was like 20 years older than he was. Okay? Yep, if you can text me that right now, 256-566-5854. Again, that number is 256-566-5854. You got any comments? Opinions? Text me, call me, 256-566-5854. Something you want to see on the LBS, 256-566-5854. But this is my time, ladies and gentlemen. However, I do appreciate yours. Thank you so much for tuning in to the LBS, the hottest, the biggest, the baddest talk show.
The way we entertain is about time that we change, and that's why I stopped watching reality shows. Got them ripping off their clothes when they come into blows. This is how distortion came in, I suppose. That's why I took time to compose a little something for my homegirls. Yeah. I got a special homegirl that you all may know. Met her back in '86 when I went to a show. It was the Fat Boys, Houdini with New Edition. After that, she became my ambition. Repetition was necessary to learn her rhymes. Comprehension on why we connected required time. I was so intrigued just by the frame of her mind, and on occasion when we talked, she seemed ahead of her time. Blessed that I was chosen to get to know her. Impressed by my gift of gab, she let me show her. See, I had no problem sharing my dividends. Every Tuesday when she dropped, I made James ready to spin. Around the way, girl, conversation was paper thin. Some caught the